A new year has started and hopefully a new leaf has been turned for Chelsea Football Club, who will want to keep this streak of wins up as we head into our first FA Cup tie against Preston North End. But who will play and how do Chelsea win? Let's get to it. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mono from Mono CFC and welcome to the lead-in. Like always, I'm going to be predicting the lineups that I feel will play and show how I believe our team could set up tactically. So without further ado, let's firstly look at our opponents for this match. Preston are currently sitting in 14th in the championship table. 10 wins, 5 draws and 11 losses sees them on 35 points, firmly planted in mid-table. Preston versus Chelsea is not a fixture that happens very often, with the majority of the games between the two sides coming in the old Division 1 or Division 2. We have history of Preston all the way back in 1907, just 2 years after the establishment of the club. In more recent history, our last fixture against them was back in 2010, over a decade ago. To find a win for the Lily Whites, you'd have to go back to 1981, where they beat us 1-0 in a Division 2 league tie. Preston will be looking to make a historic moment here and beat the Blues at their own patch. So, how are they planning to try and achieve that? Let's look at the team. Preston North End, managed by Ryan Lowe, have set up in numerous different formations and setups so far this season, with a mixture of 3 at the back systems and 4 at the back systems. There seems to be a pattern of them playing 3 or 5 at the back systems when they face stronger opposition, so against us I'm going to be putting them into the 3-4-1-2. This will be a difficult lineup to pick because the manager has come out and said that his focus is on the league and they won't be making the FA Cup as a priority, so I'm not entirely sure how strong of a lineup they will play. First up in goal though, I think it's safe to say that Freddie Woodman will start. He's their number 1 and barring any injury concerns, I reckon he'll remain in net. For the back 3, this will be relatively standard for them. On the right of the 3 will be Jordan Storey, in the centre will be Scotsman Liam Lindsay, and over on the left I'll be putting in Andrew Hughes. Moving into the midfield 4, we'll start with the right wing-back role, and that will likely be occupied by 29-year-old Brad Potts. The 2 in the centre are more tricky to pick, but I think it's safe to say that Ali McCann will start. For the other player in the middle, I think Mads Frokjær Jensen will drop out, and Ryan Ledson will return to the side. Finally, over on the left, the other wing-back will most likely be Liam Miller, who came up with a winning goal against Leeds a few games ago. The 3 remaining positions will be interesting here too. They have quite a lot of options with the likes of Emil Riis-Jakobsen coming back from injury, but I think this kind of attacking midfield role will be occupied by Alan Brown, who may drop deeper into the midfield when required to make it a 3-5-2. The 2 strikers up top are genuinely a toss-up, but I would be surprised if top scorer Will Keane doesn't start, and alongside him I'm going to be putting in Ched Evans. Now, I'm not going to talk about Preston's tactics here like usual, but I'll talk about the tactics of the game in my GBU livestream after the game. Unfortunately, there's not enough time between then and the Middlesbrough tie for me to make a full tactical breakdown, but I'll definitely speak about it during the stream, so come through. However, I will mention a few things of note about them. Firstly, Preston's form coming into the new year has been rather awful. They have won 4 out of their last 19 games coming into this one, and are currently on a league form streak of 4 losses and 1 win. The pressure is building on manager Ryan Lowe, which may cause Preston to be a little more feisty in this game than they'd usually be, or the complete opposite and they'll roll over and lose. Preston have scored a quite miserably low amount of goals this season, sitting in 16th out of 24 teams with 31 goals, but the real kicker is their defensive record. They sit in 21st place out of 24 teams for goals conceded, letting in 44 goals along with having the joint least amount of clean sheets in the league with 3. They are somewhat lucky that this is an away tie for them, as their defensive record at home is the worst in the entire league, with their away form being slightly better. That being said, Stamford Bridge has been a bit of a fortress as of late, especially under the lights like this game is. I think this is going to be a rough night for them in all honesty. From watching Preston, it's clear to me that they have an issue with one thing in particular when defending. They leave far too much space for attacking players. In that 5-1 thrashing at the hands of Watford, almost every goal they conceded came from the men on the ball having far too much time to pick out passes, and the men off the ball being given the room to operate in. If Preston do this against Chelsea, they might as well not even bother turning up, because we will exploit that weakness. Lastly, I think it's worth pointing out the player who I believe will be the man to watch out for in this game for Preston, and that's Liam Miller on that left-hand side. He's a right-footed left wing-back who operates as Preston's main attacking outlet at times, almost always finding himself in advanced positions almost like a left winger. He's dangerous off that left-hand side not only because his right-footedness gives him the in-swinging cross, like Hakim Ziyech used to do for us, and shots to the far post, but because he's very comfortable going the other way too, able to get to the byline and cut the ball back on his weaker left side. Chelsea will have to make sure we do not allow him time and space on the ball if we want to limit their attacking potential. But, as always, I'd like to focus more on our own team from now on, so speaking of the Blues, let's talk about Chelsea. But real quick, if you're enjoying the content and want to see more, please consider subscribing to the channel. Cheers. Let's start with the formation. I'm going to be putting us into a strong but rotated side, and thus I think the formation that gives us the best balance with those rotations is the 4-2-3-1. Okay, quick editor's note here. Obviously, I record these episodes well in advance of the press conferences, so I didn't know certain things, like Nkunku being injured, like Leslie Ugochukwu being injured, and Andrés Santos possibly getting some minutes. I also didn't know about Poch basically saying that he's not going to rotate the side very much, so my predicted lineup is obviously without that knowledge, so keep that in mind as we proceed. Okay, now back to the video. First up in goal, I'm going to be putting in Georgi Petrovic, who after his save of the month candidate-worthy save against Luton, will be starting once more with Sanchez still out. Now the back four will be changed dramatically in my opinion, but as he is our only fit right back, Malo Gusto will be starting once again. I would personally like to see Josh Kofi-Akpong, who's just signed his first senior contract recently, get some minutes off the bench if possible, but I doubt that will happen in truth. However, a youth product that I think is a nailed-on starter for this game is Alfie Gilchrist, who starts at right centre-back for me. Next to him, I think will be the experience of Thiago Silva, though I'd personally choose Colwill here. I think Poch will be hesitant to fully rotate his side. Over on the left, I'm going to be putting in Ian Martson for rotation. I know there's talks of him leaving for Dortmund soon, so I think this could be a chance to raise his price a little with a good performance here. Moving into the midfield, this will be relatively simple. There's absolutely no way that Conor Gallagher doesn't start, and I don't expect him or want him to leave in the window like reports have suggested. Next to him, I'm going to be putting in Enzo Fernandez, giving Caicedo a bit of a rest despite his importance to the team, and easing Enzo back into the team after his hernia issues. For the attacking or more advanced midfielder, I'll be putting in Cole Palmer once again after his Player of the Month level performances last month. Now, if we're to see some youth players play in these positions, I would love to see Alex Matos get a game here, but he's just signed a loan deal at Huddersfield, which I personally think is a great move for him. Andrés Santos has been recalled from loan after that terrible spell at Forest, but him playing is incredibly wishful thinking considering the short time between his recall and this match in my opinion. Instead, I'm going to suggest giving Leo Castledine an opportunity to play. He can play in any one of these midfield positions, so I hope to see him off of the bench at some point. For the final three, this is a total toss-up for me in truth. I think Poch will opt to prioritise our game against Middlesbrough, which is very soon after this game, so I'm going to be dropping Madueke from the lineup so he can start against them instead. This means that Raheem Sterling will start on the right-hand side for me. For the left-hand side, I'm going to be putting in Mykhailo Mudryk, as he didn't start last time out and needs to be getting consistent minutes. Now, I know people will be asking, where's Nkunku, but I personally think Poch will rest him for Middlesbrough. Finally, this leaves the striker, which picks itself in all honesty. Armando Broja starts as Nicholas Jackson has left for the African Cup of Nations with Senegal, so good luck to him whilst he's away this month. I do believe this leaves a pathway for David Washington to get some level of involvement here too off of the bench, so I hope to see him get some minutes. Now I'm going to break down how I think we should play in order to get a result against Preston, but before I do so, it's time for the question of the day. As always, I'm going to highlight some of the comments from the last video, so here are a few responses to the last question of the day. Thanks guys for your continued support as ever. If you want your comment to be featured in the next video, leave your answer to this video's question of the day down below with QOTD at the start as always. So for this week's question of the day, we'll go for a simple one. Which youth player do you hope to see play in this game, and why? Alright, so how will we play? Well, I think that this game should be relatively easy, I can't lie. Even with the rotated side, we are far above Preston, and whilst we have confidence in ourselves and theirs is diminishing in recent weeks, I think this could be a standard FA Cup third round hammering that we've often seen in the past. We need to keep up this good form, and this is the perfect opportunity to do so whilst giving some youth players some much needed first team experience. As always, I'm going to highlight some keys to success here. Firstly, Chelsea obviously have far more individual quality in our team, so we will have to make that abundantly clear. Our wingers will need to be taking on their men directly, our midfield needs to outclass their opposite numbers, our finishing needs to be superb, and our defence infallible. We will need to dictate play and possession, not allow Preston into the game at all, and for lack of a better term, just bully them all game long and show we are the superior side. This all sounds pretty obvious, but in recent times we have been letting far too many weaker sides show up against us, Luton last time out being a prime example. Once again we saw us drop off in the second half, something that has been a common occurrence under Pochettino. We need to be ruthless in this game, not toothless, and stop Preston from ever being able to gain any momentum. I think that'll be easier to do at home. As I mentioned earlier, Stamford Bridge has been turning into a bit of a fortress as of late, with us winning far more home games than we previously were, especially during nighttime games, which this one is. I think our home crowd is starting to get behind the team more, and the players are responding to that. In general, despite us being in 10th, there is much to be positive about now considering how close we are to a European spot, and this good feeling translates onto the pitch too. I think a key battle to look out for will be our right hand side, not only that defensive duel between Malo Gusto and the aforementioned Miller, but the offensive duel with Raheem Sterling. As I mentioned, Miller likes to get up the pitch, and if Gusto can add him to the Malo Gusto penitentiary like he so often does to his opposite number, this will seriously limit how many chances our opponents can create. Likewise, that vacated space on the left hand side allows Raheem Sterling to collect the ball in space, then drive at the left centre back or towards the byline. If Preston decide to double up on Sterling with Miller coming back to help out defensively, this will also limit how offensive they can be, and this is why I think this side is so important in this game, because I think the game will be won or lost on this flank. Like against any lower league side, the majority of their chances will come from set plays and or balls into the box, and we've shown that we are vulnerable from these types of scenarios. With a lot of time to prepare for this game, I'd expect improvements in that area, and despite me fielding a relatively short team, I would hope that we deal with these situations better in this game due to our organisation being better. If we can't fix up in this part of the game, I could see us conceding a goal or two, which in turn could see our confidence drop and our performance get shaky. We have to avoid this possibility at all costs. There's not much more that I can say about this game. We should be winning this, and I don't think there can be any excuses if we don't. This should be routine, and so I'm treating it as such. Let's get this game behind us and move on to Middlesbrough. I would love to see us put the game beyond Preston early so we can rest players for that EFL Cup tie, and also give minutes to youth products or players returning from injury. For a score prediction, I'm going to, as ever, predict a Chelsea win, and I'm going to be quite brutal here and say that Chelsea will beat Preston by 4-0. I'm going to say that our goals will come from Sterling, who will bag a brace, and Nkunku with a tap-in off the bench, and I reckon Malo Gusto will get his first for the club off of that right-hand side. But that was just my lead-in match preview for Chelsea vs Preston North End. Thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these possible lineups in the comment section below, and if you'd be so kind, subscribe to the channel and leave the video a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to tap the notification bell so you never miss a video from me, or check out some of the other videos on the channel on screen right now. I've been Mono from Mono CFC, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.